Well, welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Asif Rehmani, and I also have Mark Gillis with me, and we'll be talking about... Hi, Mark.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll be talking about no-code SharePoint 2013 solutions for power users today. Mark is extremely passionate, and so am I, about this, and I'll let Mark in a couple of minutes introduce himself, but just to give a quick overview here. Mark is a senior content editor at Microsoft, and I'm a SharePoint guy. That's how I like to describe myself. So hopefully this team of the two presenters today will give you guys enough of a reason to be here today. My hope always is that our webinars give you the best of what you came here for. And feel free, please, throughout the time to ask questions. There's a questions panel. So go ahead and fill that up with questions. We'll try to either type the answers in, or we'll try to say the answers when we get a chance. Just a couple of things about our company. Actually, just one thing. SharePointVideos.com, which is the host of the webinar today, has a product called Visual SP, and it's basically a help tab that follows you around everywhere. So that's the tab right here. Yeah, and that provides you the in-context, on-demand help for SharePoint users as needed. We think of this as the optimal solution for SharePoint adoption, for end-user support. Here you see a screenshot come up, the first one, and the second one down below you see a video playing right there. It could be screenshots, videos, links, documents, whatever you want it to be for your users. And we think that the return on investment for SharePoint is the biggest thing that everybody should be focusing on, and Visual SP helps people do that. All right, with that, let me do a quick introduction, a little bit more formally of what I do, and then I'll hand it over to Mark. So, as it says over here, I've been a SharePoint MVP and also a Microsoft certified trainer for quite some time now. Founder of SharePoint Videos, and also the instructor for a course called SharePoint 2013 No-Code Solutions. Before that, I used to teach the SharePoint 2010 No-Code Solutions. And because the no-code solutions have been my baby, the way I look at it, this presentation today that Mark and I are doing is very near and close to my heart, and hoping to do a good job at it. You guys decide and let us know the feedback. So Mark, I'm going to go ahead and change the presenter to you so you can show your screen and introduce yourself. Yep, I see the screen now.
Everything working okay?
Oh, yeah.
So my name is Mark Gillis, and just a minor correction here. I'm not an editor, and I don't play one on TV. I'm actually a writer, and I've been a writer for a while now. So I've been at Microsoft for 20 years and 33 years in the computer industry. And the two things that I want to emphasize because of this presentation is that I have written a no-code solutions handbook, and we'll get into that a little bit. And I'm the curator of the no-code solutions website, and these are Microsoft content, and we'll talk about them a little bit. And they really complement very well all the work that Asif's been doing. And yeah, we're both passionate about power users and have been for a long time. So the first thing I wanted to say was, first of all, who is a power user and how do we think of a power user, and hopefully you think the same way. So here's kind of the four most important points here. A power user is a user with technical expertise of one kind or another. And no, I don't want to change the color. And then the second point to make is a power user really understands the business needs and is maybe an analyst or works closely with business leaders to try to adopt technology solutions. And the third thing to point out is that usually the power user doesn't code for a living, okay? In other words, they're not a developer. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's kind of the core definition. And you may have heard other terms like citizen developer, that's kind of a cute term, and then BUIT, which stands for business user IT. But that's who the power user is and how we define the power user. And so, every group of people needs a motto, and this is the motto for the power user that I like the most. Let's not write code until we have to write code. okay? And encapsulated in this motto is really the essence of the power user. They want to create solutions without writing code, because code takes time, takes money, takes investment, okay? And there's a lot of features and functionality available with SharePoint and all the integrated Office points that are available. And so this motto really captures the essence of the power user. Nothing wrong with writing code, okay? But let's not write code until we have to write code. That's the point. So actually, here's a chance now for Asif to give a short demo on geolocation and say, hey, here's an example of a no-code solution.
Yeah, sure. And I just want to reiterate what you were saying, Mark, before, that it's very true that this platform that we have to our disposal, SharePoint, I mean, it is truly a platform, right? It's not just software. It's a platform. And you want to try to do as much as possible with the platform without code first, with configuration, customization, and all that stuff, because it's easier to transfer, it's easier to maintain. Then, and only then, you look for code or third-party solutions for this thing. Very true. Okay, let me go ahead and show folks a little bit of the demo over here. I'll change my screen, or show my screen. All right. Here it is. You can hopefully see my screen now. So there's a functionality in SharePoint 2013 ships with it called geolocation columns. Okay, and I'll be talking about that. Let me put this in full screen first. Okay, so what is geolocation? Geolocation is a location mapping functionality. Okay, so it comes as a column, as a site column that you can add to any site collection, any web application, wherever you wanted to. And once you have it within that list or library, you have the functionality to show maps. Here's how it works. I'm going to go ahead and add an app first, because I'm looking to make a list, and this is going to be the contacts list. Let me search for that. Contacts. We'll call this team contacts. Okay. Here's team contacts. I'm going to go into it, and this is where I'm going to add that location column, which is going to be the geolocation column. Okay. So list, since it's a site column, I need to go to the list settings first, and from list settings, I'm going to go down and say add from existing site columns. So look, the column that I'm looking for is called location, as I mentioned. Let's look at this way. Oh, it seems like I've added a couple of different times over here. Okay, this is the one that I'm looking for. Seems to have been added a couple of times. Okay, when I add this location column, I want to make sure it's the right one. Here we go. The type is geolocation. So it's not single line of text, it's not date and time, it's not multiple lines of text, it's geolocation. And here's how it works. Going back to team contacts now, I have my location column. I'm going to click on new item. Let's put myself in there. First name, last name, and of course you can fill out other information too, all the metadata. At the bottom is the location. I can have it simply use my location, or I can say specify location. Now this is a virtual machine that I'm using, which is I believe in San Francisco somewhere, but I'm in Chicago. Let me specify the Chicago location. It's asking me for latitude and longitude. Bing Maps will let me get the latitude and longitude for my city, which is Chicago. A very, very snowy city these days. All right, so latitude, and for longitude is going to be right here. There's a minus missing, so I'm going to put that in there. And there you go. So it's using the Bing Maps functionality to show me this is right in the middle of downtown, or almost in the middle of downtown, so it shows that for Chicago. All right, so in the current view, this is a current view the way it shows by default. The location is a column, and then the icon that's right in the middle, I have to click on this to show the map. Probably not the ideal way for me to see it, so there is a way you can actually make a new view for this list. I can go to list and say create view, and there is a view called, or view type called the map view. Let me click on that, put in map. Okay, any columns that I want to show, not show, I can go ahead and select and deselect them here. Let me click on OK. And this by default shows me exactly my live map right in the view, right by my data point. What I did also earlier, just to show you guys, what it would look like if you had a few different people, I actually went out and put our own team members' names in a context list. So here's the different context list here. Here's the map view. So a few folks that I work with, a few wonderful folks that I work with, and we're all located everywhere in the United States. It seems like Chicago, Portland, San Diego, and Long Island. That's the folks right here. It's a very awesome functionality, right, completely built in, the live mapping functionality that has been extremely helpful to build solutions without using any code. So what do you think, Mark?
That's a terrific example.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get back to you.
And there's thousands of different ways you can create no-code solutions on the SharePoint platform. So what is a no-code solution? Okay, and Asif and I talked about this, and said we want to define this as concisely as possible. Quick, useful, inexpensive. Okay, that's the essence of a no-code solution. Okay, you can do it quickly. It's useful. It's not a toy. It's practical. It solves a business need, and it's inexpensive because you're not spending a lot of money, time, and resources on code that you might not have to. And then, of course, it solves a common business need, and that geocode location demo is a perfect example. Okay, and you've seen those before, and you said, "Wow, that's really cool. How do you do that?" You can do that on the SharePoint platform, and you can do a great job with it too. And then, a no-code solution in the past has been referred to as a SharePoint composite. That was the official term for a few versions. And sometimes you've heard the term mashup. And those all cover the same ballpark or area, a way to put together different pieces of functionality to create a solution without code. And so here's a few examples of no-code solutions. Okay, things that I would call the bread and butter of businesses or enterprises, whatever your organization does. Tracking goods, services, orders, and customers, right? Every business does this. An Access app is a great way of doing that, but you could also use a site list. Human resource portals, okay? I mean, how often do you want to collect information that day-to-day stuff that employees have to do all the time? This is a perfect, example of a no-code solution. Expense reporting, that's classic. Okay, it could be simple, mileage, okay, or something more sophisticated where you have a spreadsheet and you enter in data and then you send it to, an expense report department for approval. Self-service reporting like financial dashboards, and we just released Power BI, which is an incredible example of that, and almost all of that requires no code. Reviewing and approving document workflows, okay? Very common, very useful, very, I don't want to say easy to do, but, you can do this in a SharePoint platform. New hire orientation sites, where you try to collect information for the new hire and then get them on board quickly. Okay, structured documents. Sorry for this, I don't know why that's coming, but structured documents, contracts that you want to quickly take care of and then archive them in a library. And then just a simple thing like location feedback, ideation, I don't even know if that's a word, feedback and suggestion boxes. you're in a planning stage, you want to gather ideas from a lot of people, SharePoint is a great way to provide a locus for that. So those are just common examples. There's thousands more. But let's take a look at another demo that Asif will show you on how to use the search web part.
Sure, absolutely. And before I do that, there's been a couple of questions about the geolocation column. I'm so glad for those questions because I was hoping somebody would ask this actually. First one from Tori was talking about that I went to the view the different types of columns and I didn't see the map view. I didn't see the geolocation column and stuff. Now the functionality does ship with the product. It is in the enterprise. It is in the standard as well. I'm pretty sure SharePoint 2013. However, there is a PowerShell command that needs to be run to turn it on. Okay. Now that command I'll go ahead and actually put it up on our website when we actually put the hang on a second, let me change the presentation. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen now. We'll go ahead and actually put that in the presentation. Okay, so it will be available by tomorrow. You'll see the presentation, you'll see the slide deck, and you'll also see this code that you need to run to be able to see the location column and the map view directly in SharePoint Enterprise. Microsoft did turn it off by default. That's just something to note. Second question here from Syed. He's asking if you use my location, will it change the location if the server is moved? And yes, actually it does change the location if the server is moved. Okay, so wherever the server is, it would actually take the IP and it will use that. Melissa, hey Melissa, good to see you. She's asking on the map view, if you zoom in, will you see multiple pins in a city area? Multiple pins, of course, if they're close, clustered together, absolutely. You would see that. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and do some stuff over here. Hopefully give you hopefully a good demo. You guys can decide. So this one I'm using an Office 365 environment to do this. And of course, you can do the same stuff in an enterprise as well. But I like to swap back and forth for different things to show you that within SharePoint, especially 2013 right now, things you can you can do on the cloud, the same things you can do on premise as well, for the most part. I have a lot of documents on this site, and I have a bunch of documents in the site collection as a whole. And what I really want to do is put up a new page where I can show these documents. Okay, but not every document show a live view of specific type of document with specific search results. So there's a search results web part that I'll use to make that happen. All right, I'm going to use a different browser because I'm signed in over in this one. So let's go to marketing. Oh, here we go, marketing here, which happens to be a subsite of this site collection. In here, what I'm going to do is add a page. Let's make this new page called webinar. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my search results web part. So insert web part, lots and lots of different web parts. I believe it's 60 some web parts that you get. And I'm going to click on the search results, which says displays the search results and the properties associated with them. Let's add it. Okay, you have to configure it. By default, it doesn't show anything, so I'm going to click on Edit Web Part. All right, the magic really happens with this thing right here, Change Query. That's what makes everything pop. Okay, so I'm going to click on Change Query right here. Gives me a nice wizard or nice configuration screen, I should say. Tells me first of all that, okay, so you are getting all local SharePoint results. Is that what you're looking for, or are you looking for people results, or are you looking for some other kind of results? So I'm looking for all SharePoint specific documents, images, table data, whatever. So I'll keep this query, and I'll talk about this query in just a minute also, how you can have a different query. Now, with keyword filter, you can use any of these keyword filters. So, for example, I want to have a value of a parameter from URL coming in. Sure, you could do that. Value of a field on a page, absolutely. Or you can just say query from the search box, which is already here. This query keyword filter right here is actually building the query text right here. So if I click on add keyword filter, it actually puts that keyword filter right there. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do to begin with is just to put a wildcard asterisk here and click on test query to make sure everything's working. It is. Here's my preview showing me that 1,938 different documents will be returned. Actually, it's documents and pages and stuff like that. Okay, let's not do that though. So what I'm looking for is maybe file type, so property filter. Okay, where's the file type actually? It's right here before. File, here we go, file type. How about file type contains, and there's a bunch of different options that I have here as well. What I want here is manual value and put in a value. So docx, for example. Add property filter, puts that in there. I'll click on the test query. So these are all Word documents, right? docx extension documents. If I wanted PowerPoint, same way. I can put pptx here, test a query. Now it shows, I'm sorry, after doing this I didn't click on add property filter. As you can notice over here it's now doing docx and pptx. That's not what I want, so I'm going to delete that. And now test query. Okay, so these are all PowerPoints right here, and I'll prove that when I use it. 105 results, that's still a lot. So what I'll do is do some additional, let's do some additional search box query or search box filtering. I'll click on this, and then I'll put in, you see there's a bunch of different documents that have Contoso on it. So I'll use the Contoso keyword, see what that does. Test query, 26 documents. Keeping in mind that what I'm doing right now, of course, is setting up my pre-configured search results for this page. So at any point in time, anybody returns to this page, it gives them the freshest results available by running this predefined query. Right, so OK and OK. Here it is. It's got a nice live preview built in as well because I'm working with Office 365, which has Office web apps already built in. Looks really cool. I think so, at least. Yeah, so once again, instead of putting static data on a page, making something like this and also even changing this around so it looks even more beautiful the way you want it to be presented by using display templates. That's another feature that I won't have time to talk about right now. But you can make it so it's the freshest results and have it be exactly the way you want it to be. One more quick thing before I turn it back to Mark. Of course, what I just did right now is I used Search Results Web Part directly, and I configured it directly here. Another way that you could do is make what's called a result source. Okay, so if you're a site admin, site owner, whatever you want to call that person, you can make a result source. That's configured from site settings. I'll show that to you also. From there, you define a predefined query there, but then you have web parts which you are making. So different web parts here, for example, and each different search results web part could be showing the results from result source, but in addition, it could be more custom results, the way you configure it on the web part itself. So a parent result set, and then you can have subsets of those results showing on different pages. It's pretty cool the way that works. So this is it, site settings, result sources. You go in here and you start making this happen as a site admin. You can see examples of that at SharePointVideos.com. There's actually a video that shows exactly how to make that happen. All right, Mark, you ready?
I am, and actually I'm just adding in a link to the geocode column.
Awesome,
there's a
great.
blog on TechNet. I just searched that down, and I'm adding it to the chat.
Wonderful.
So people can take a look at that.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And actually, there's quite a lot of good information on the search web part, and I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. Let's see. Everybody seeing this?
Yep.
This is the next slide. So this is a Gartner quote, but it was written July 14, 2011. Okay. Citizen developers, 25% of new business applications by 2014. You know, and I was struck by this article when I saw it a few years ago, and I was first doing a lot of work on those solutions. And their prognostication has come full circle, and you know, I checked the SharePoint conference, over 10,000 people there, and something like 20% of the people attending identify themselves as power users. And of course, there's a separate track for power users there. Okay, so this means that there's a certain amount of maturity that's going on now in this whole space. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit right now to put things in perspective is this concept that I call the customization continuum in SharePoint, okay? So when you first purchase SharePoint, you know, basically it's an empty container, okay? And then the first thing that you do over time is you start to customize SharePoint out of the box. And of course, most users get in there, they create sites, they add documents, they add lists, they do a lot of social interaction, and that's saved. And so that's kind of what a typical user does. Okay, so what is that like? You know, that's like you bought a house as a new home, and initially it's empty. And the first thing you do is you fill it with furniture, okay? And you do some arrangement and you do some decoration. Maybe you're going to buy some new furniture, or maybe you're going to migrate some of the old furniture from your house to the new house. Okay, and so that's kind of like the first thing that people do with the customization, what I call the customization continuum. Okay, but it doesn't stop there. Okay, you've got all sorts of powerful declarative capabilities built into SharePoint that maybe 5 years ago you would have had to hire a coder to do it or buy a third-party product and spend a lot of money. But now these are folded into SharePoint. Okay. You know, typical examples are doc sets or enterprise content management or doing record control, putting holds for legal searches and things like that. That's all built into SharePoint, and someone who's, you know, energetic and is willing to take on the task can go through the forms, read the documentation, do the right configuration, and get a lot of things done. What's that like? Okay. That's like, okay, I need some more furniture, but I need cheap furniture, cheap quality furniture. So I go to everybody's favorite Scandinavian store, and I get my bin tickets, and I purchase them, and I bring them home, and I unpack them, and I fall in love with particle board, okay, and locking screws, and I build the furniture, okay. I follow the directions, and I'm able to, in an inexpensive way, do something that would have cost me more money. I got to spend a little more time doing that, okay? That's okay, I can do that. So that's kind of what I call the next phase of the customization continuum, okay? And certainly power users get involved in this as well. The third phase is the power user no-code solution phase, or SharePoint composites is the old term here. Now I'm going to take Access Apps, or I'm going to do some BI dashboards, or I'm going to do some workflow, or I'm going to access external data with business connectivity services, okay? So here I'm going to create a business solution, but I'm still not doing code, okay? So what's that like? Okay, well, are people familiar with the show on PBS called the New Yankee Workshop, okay? And there's Norm, he's got an amiable face, a beard, he's got a healthy appetite, and he's a master carpenter. But then each week he shows you how to do a roll-top desk, okay, something right out of the 40s, or a shaker hope chest, okay, or corner cabinets in your living room, and corner hutch cabinets. Well, these are kind of specialty items, okay, that are hard to find, okay, or it's going to cost a lot of money to customize these. But, you know, you got a little woodworking skills, and you figure, I can do this myself. You can watch the video and see how it's done, and then you can also order like explosions of the diagrams to see, you know, how do I cut the wood, you know, what other pieces do I need to put it together, okay? So this is my analogy of SharePoint's customization continuum, okay? Notice that there are 3 levels to this. We haven't done any code, okay? But of course, that's the next, if you want, final phase, where you might want to develop an app, okay? You might want to use the client-side object model or a lot of JavaScript, okay? You might want to create a reusable component like a web part. That's going to require code. So what's that like? That's like you want a really buffed out kitchen, okay? And this is important to you. You're not going to do IKEA. You're not going to build it yourself. You're going to hire the contractors to do it for you because this is complicated. And you're going to spend the money to do it, okay? So a house can have a combination of all these different ways of customizing, and so can SharePoint. But look at the degree to which you can do so much in SharePoint without code, and then when you get to the point where you need code, you have confidence that, yeah, I'm spending my money the way it should be spent. I'm not wasting it. I'm building on what I've already done. So I call this the SharePoint customization continuum.
That's such an awesome slide, by the way, Mark. It really shows exactly how you should proceed from, you know, simple to more complex depending on your need.
Oh, thanks, Asif. Yeah. Now, as a power user, I'm going to suggest that you add a new favorite website to your browser favorites. And this is a curated site that I've been maintaining for several years now. We call it the No-Code Solutions using SharePoint 2013 composites. And this one site has a handbook, a link to the handbook, and then it has a list of solutions that you can go to and use as models, okay? Just like you were watching the New Yankee workshop, you watched the video and then you ordered the instructions for the parts. That's the concept behind this, okay? So I have 114 solutions in here, and I'm going to add about maybe 40 more next week when I have some time. But notice I can browse through this based on what I call the composite pattern. Okay, so let's take a look at external data. Okay, so we have 4 solution titles in here. One of them is a demo. One of them is a walkthrough. One of them is a life cycle kind of collection of health topics. And one of them is a webcast. Okay, and then let's say I'm interested in Power Pivot. I can select here, and I can drill down pretty easily to the particular type of solution that I'm looking for. And one of them that I need to add is the geocode column list. And I have a link that I just sent to everybody, and so I need to add that. Well, how will I do that? Well, there's an Excel spreadsheet sitting on SkyDrive, and I'm using embedded Excel to drive this curation. It's just one page, and it's not a very big page. But I can pack a lot of information into this embedded Excel, and everybody knows how to use Excel. This is like maybe 4 or 5 lines of code in the HTML page, okay? And my spreadsheet lives on SkyDrive, or I'm sorry, OneDrive, okay? I'm gonna break that habit. And but it's dynamic, okay? And I can add stuff to it over time, and I've been doing that. So I've got 114 solutions there, and then, you know, for example, here's mobile. I've got one, and need to beef that up a little bit. But the point is, you've got a nice dynamic set of topics, and they are pre-selected for the power user. Okay, that's the important thing. And this is an example of a power user solution. You could do something like this on your website very easily, okay, using embedded Excel. this is at the end of the slides is a link to this. So please take a look at it. Let us know what you think. We want to build this over time to serve the power user audience.
Yeah. Hey, quick question on this one, Mark. I saw one place that said walkthrough and another one type that said demo. What's the difference between the walkthrough and demo for the type?
So the demo will usually be kind of a collection of videos. Okay. Where someone is like you're looking over the shoulder of somebody and they're showing you how to do something. Mm-hmm. Okay. Some of them are actual labs, and we have a lot of labs on the Microsoft website, and they give you environments. Okay. So you download the environment, the virtual environment, and then you can go through the lab, and they have a lab handbook, and you've seen some of these in the SharePoint conference. So I classified the type of solution, and by the way, all of these are free. Okay? Yeah. There's no charge for these, or there's minimal charge in the case of some of the labs. But the point is, I just wanted to give some information so people can understand what they're going to get to before they click the link. That was the idea behind that. And then also the version. Yeah. Which version does it apply to? Because a lot of people are still using 2010. Sure. And also you can take these 2010 solutions and you can adapt them very easily to 2013. There may be a little difference in the UI or something like that, but they're great solutions, and I didn't want to leave them out just because they were 2010. And then the second artifact, if you will, that I'd really like you to take a look at is this SharePoint Composites Handbook, a guide to creating business solutions with no code. And this is the equivalent of your Boy Scout handbook, okay? And I'll spare everybody all the history of my days as a Boy Scout. But this is a copy of the original one, written in the 19th century or something. But it's a collection of really great information that'll help you when you're trying to design a solution. And you've got 2 versions of this available. There's a link to it on the website. Very easy for you to get to and download. And I'm just going to kind of browse through it. It's about 90 pages long. The main thing, there's 3 parts to this. First part is, what are the fundamentals about these solutions and what are all the different things that you could do with it? And then the second part, which is about the middle part, is, what's the life cycle of going through these solutions? Here I'm trying to provide assistance for you on how to think about creating solutions, kind of generic information, but just like a life cycle handbook for a developer. And then the third part is, well, what are the different design patterns that you could do with a no-code solution? And here I adopted the concept of patterns from architects. They have this concept of code patterns that people can use and reuse. And that's the idea that I want to get across here. There's different types of solutions that you can make. You can do browser-based customizations where you just modify a site. Okay? You can do business process and workflows. Okay? You can do projects. You want to take a project site template, customize this for your own needs, and then say, now we're going to standardize on this project site template. All sorts of managed documents and content type solutions, like media assets. You could put together a really nice looking media site without any code at all using SharePoint. Okay? And then Access Apps is an obvious one. All the different ways you can use business intelligence. Okay? And then business connectivity services. A big chunk of the work that you do there can be done with no code. Features that are built into the product. And then there's a couple of useful appendixes here. One of them is the summary of the web parts. I think, Asif, you said 60. Mm-hmm. I believe it's actually 114.
Oh my God, it's gone that much up? Wow.
Yeah, that's if you fully install things. Like I've got the project web parts in here.
Oh, okay.
But here's a list of all the web parts that you could have in a SharePoint site. And so I've identified them here because those are very important and powerful when you're creating site solutions.
Yeah, I remember that with SharePoint 2010 Enterprise, it was 66, and I counted. So
Yep.
I was assuming, and that's just without the BCS, without the project server, which are all additional things. But this is great to hear. There's so many more now. Wonderful.
So again, I really encourage everybody to go to the website, browse around, look at some of the solutions, see if they're going to help you with the ideas that you might have, and then take a look at the handbook. I think there's a lot of good information in there that'll help you get through the creative process of how you want to solve the problem and the ways of thinking about the solution. Again, there's links to these at the end of the presentation. So now it's time for another demo.
Yeah, absolutely.
From Steve, the demo master.
The demo boy. So, all right, let me go ahead and switch my screen first. There it is. Thought I would put a plug-in for our site as well here. You know, we deal, Mark and I both, in our professions and our roles, we both deal with solution workers, knowledge workers a lot. And I completely agree with Mark that there's so much awesome information out there. You should definitely avail of it. The handbook, the composite site that Mark has gives you pointers to a lot of those different things. In addition, YouTube and other video places also, of course, have a lot of content. We also specialize in very specific type of content produced by SharePoint MVPs, MCTs, etc. as well. And if you're interested, go to SharePointVideos.com. Videos, you can watch a bunch of free videos to sample it as well here. And if you want, you can go to 2013, 2010, 2007 training courses. Just to give you a quick preview before I go in and do the workflow bit. You got end user training, general videos, branding, project management, development, workflow, search, JavaScript, enterprise forms, administration, records management, BI. There's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff there, and there's more coming. So all the stuff that I'm doing today, the webinar itself, the recording is going to go on this website as well under the free videos, the webinars. And you'll see a bunch of these small snippets, small recordings in these courses which do the same type of demos that I'm presenting today as well. Okay.
Steve, can I just add something?
Yeah,
here?
sure.
So this is just a perfect complement to the handbook and the website, the curated website, because you do need skill development at some point. Okay, you may know Excel and Access pretty well, but you may not know project. Okay, and now you're going to create a solution of project. So that's part of any type of solution, and whether you're a coder or not. And so this is a great one-stop shopping site for skill development. And we've used your videos, repurposed them on the Microsoft website because their quality is so good.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it. And we try to, of course, get the best presenters, the MVPs, MCTs, and all in the market as well. For example, Dux and Yaroslav, Chris Beckett, Agnes for search and all. So and Mark Anderson for JavaScript.
Yeah, these are the best in the business.
Yeah, they're the best superstars for these particular topics. Who better to talk about search, for example, than Agnes, and who better to talk about the middle tier JavaScript, jQuery kind of stuff than Mark Anderson. So these are the folks who have done these trainings. Anyway, I want to give everybody what they came here for. So I want to go ahead and actually show the workflow bit of it. Now, keeping in mind that what I'm about to show right now, this is all SharePoint 2013 specific. However, a bunch of these things you can do in SharePoint 2010 as well. Even 2007, you could do some of this stuff. SharePoint Designer 2013 workflows is my focus over here. SharePoint Designer being a free application, and the workflow capability within SharePoint Designer is pretty awesome. It's one of the best things I feel personally that Microsoft has put out there for SharePoint. So the ability to use stages, to use looping, all those things are there. This is the interface for SharePoint Designer. If I go into workflows and say I want to make a new workflow, I can make it on all these different lists. I'm going to choose announcement, which is the announcement list, and go ahead and put in announcement approval. Very important over here that I want to choose SharePoint 2013 to avail of those new features. If I do 2010, it will give me the older environment, which is the SharePoint 2010 environment, doesn't have those updated features like looping and staging and things like that. So I'll use this announcement approval. This currently is running on my machine. The site that I'm going to is sharepointvideos.sharepoint.com sites and this test site, but this is Office 365, by the way. Okay, so stage 1, let's change that to starting stage. Okay, this is a stage. Within a stage, I'll go ahead and put in, let's just do, let's use the action here. Set workflow status. Bunch of different actions available here, by the way. I would definitely suggest you look into it if you have not already done so. So set workflow status to a particular message, and my message here is going to be starting. I'll put a log statement here, log a message. So I just typed it in this time instead of going to the button, ribbon button. You can do it either way. You can click on this like that, or you can start typing it in like this, and it will tell you there's already an insert log statement that I can put in there if you press enter. All right, the message over here, simple message, that's just going to be workflow is starting. Okay. And third thing over here, excuse me, I'll put an assignment to somebody out there, assign a task. If you've already worked with the assign task in SharePoint 2010 before, you'll see that this actually is even better. When I click on assign a task to this user and go in here, this window gives me a lot more flexibility than I had before to work with the participant, the exact messaging and everything else. So the person that I'm looking for, I can search throughout my organization or just pick somebody here. Let's see, do I even have that person here? In the test, I don't have that. You know what, I'll just go ahead and pick somebody. I'll pick Gary for right now. Okay. And then the task title here is going to be approve announcement. Description, please approve. Okay. Task option. When this task gets put in, do I want it to be completed before this workflow can move up, or do I not want that? Okay, so that's a very easy checkbox now. For email options, something that I'm pretty excited about, you can just go directly in here into the email editor and say, you know what, I want a different message to be sent out than this templated message. So you have a new task, something like assign from, and then the person who assigned it. How do you find the person who assigned this task? Well, I can do a lookup within the workflow context. The person who has assigned me the task should be there. That's the initiator. And I want to show the display name. Hey, Mark, just a quick note. Your typing is it's pretty loud over here. If you can just mute yourself until talking. Thanks. All right, thanks. Workflow context, initiator, display name. All right. Display name is what I want to show in this message. Okay. I can also have send task overdue emails, and that is another message, which of course has some red wording and stuff in there. There's another thing here which kind of scares me a little bit. It says recurrence, however many times, and then infinitely. Yikes. So if this task doesn't get sent, it doesn't get done, it's going to infinitely remind the person. So I kind of stay away from this one. Outcome options, what do you want the outcome option to be? This right here is a site column defined on the actual site. You can change that to have multiple different outcomes, like approved, not approved, waiting, whatever. Currently it's just approved and rejected are the two outcomes. But oh, okay. That's because I had said this one. Let me uncheck that and click on OK. Wow, so it doesn't let me make it a 0. So I have to put 1 in there, then uncheck this thing. I think I found a bug. All right. Anyway, so I got my one stage, right? And staging, of course, is the big thing to remember, how you can go from stage to stage, transitioning. The second big thing within the whole designer interface is the copy-paste functionality. I can go ahead and take this whole thing if I wanted to, do a copy and do a paste right here. Okay? Do I want the same exact stuff? Not really. So I'll go ahead and take this thing and delete it for right now. But if I did, that's what I would do. Okay, my next stage here, we'll do a little bit faster this time. It's going to be approve, announcement approved. Let's do that. Announcement approved. And here's going to be a log statement saying announcement has been approved, and also a workflow status. Workflow status. Message is going to be approved. This status, by the way, right here, it shows up directly in the list itself as a column, and it's extremely helpful to have your own status. Of course, Microsoft and SharePoint itself has an internal status that it shows, and that's going to be whatever it's going to be. But this is a status that you show to your people so they know exactly what you mean. Transition to stage, yep, go to, and then the stage here is going to be end of workflow. Now this is where I would love to have the copy-paste functionality, because I don't want to repeat the whole thing again. I'll just copy this thing, go down here, paste it. Stage name announcement already exists, no problem. I'll go down and change the name to announcement rejected. Simple enough, right? Rejected. And then same thing over here, we'll say rejected. Of course, this is a very simple type of workflow, but in complex ones, much longer ones, the copy-paste functionality helps tremendously. Transition to stage. Here I can even put in a conditional statement. I could say condition, if any value equals value, and the value that I'm looking for, well, the value that I'm looking for here is going to be this outcome value. So value, lookup, and lookup from workflow variable. Outcome is a variable. And already knows that it's going to be approved or rejected, so I'll say approved. Simple enough. Go to the stage here is going to be, go to announcement approved, else go to rejected. Another awesome thing about the copy-paste, because I know it's a very simple thing, but we have been wishing for this for such a long time. I want to mention one more thing is, many times I would have loved to, in the past, take my complex workflow and give it to somebody easily. And all I could do at that point in time is encompass it into a WSP, or somehow, take the text of the whole thing and give them the text so they can import it in, or make it into a Visio diagram and then have them import the Visio diagram. There were so many different ways like that. Now, here's a really cool thing. You can just say Control-A, and it selects everything, and you can click on copy, and then you have the other SharePoint Designer environment open side by side, paste it in, just like that, you're done. Well, not that simple. You're done with at least the copy and pasting, but of course if you have something specific that's pointing to a list, a library, a person, or whatever else, you do have to go and reconfigure and change those things around, but all the logic you can copy and paste, which is extremely helpful. It saves a lot of time. All right, let's run this thing and see what happens. So workflow settings, I'm going to say that start this workflow automatically when an item is created. All's good. Let's go back to edit workflow, check for errors, no errors, publish. So in this case, it is actually going to my Office 365 environment, publishing it over there. Right, when it's done publishing, I'll just go to the test site, which is right here. Okay, announcement is the list. And here, when I click on new announcement now and put in an announcement, for example, we're going completely vegan. No more meats in the cafe. I'll get everybody's attention.
Hot Pockets, for that matter.
All right, so announcement approval right here is the workflow that's already started. Just got kicked off. I'll refresh this here, and it says starting. That's the status that I had put in there. It doesn't have to be starting. It could be anything. That's got to be something that's business focused. It's easy to understand for the business user. Very important. I'll go inside it, and now it says there's already an announcement task that's been put into for Gary. I don't have Gary's password. I would have to ask Gary for that, so I don't want to do that. Otherwise, I would show you his inbox, and you just have to click on the Outlook, and it shows the inbox. In fact, I might be able to show you a different person's inbox. So this is Garth, who I was looking for before, and the email would look something like the following when it comes up. It's going to have, here we go, you have a new task from the initiator name, and it shows exactly where you're going to, right? So this is one from before, though, not just right now. Okay, so let's say that he got a email, and he clicks on the actual announcement, task, goes into the task. I only have two outcomes, approved or rejected at this point, so I'll approve it on Gary's behalf because I'm a site administrator, so I could do that. And having done that, this should change now. Let's see. Refresh, started, complete, still going, but it's going to be changed to completed pretty soon. Okay. Hasn't gone to completed yet, but here we go. Announcement approved, status. Internal status is also going to change as well. It's just timer jobs that they're running and things are changing. Okay, but that's a very simple scenario of what SharePoint Designer workflows can do. Those of you who have been doing this for a while, they say, no, well, show me something more complex. Not a problem. Here's another workflow. By the way, this list blog entries workflow is available as a free video on SharePointVideos.com, so you can check that out. Just search for list blog or blog workflow, something like that on SharePointVideos.com, and you'll find it. So in this one, you're calling actually a web service here. Calling a web service, getting information back, using a dictionary variable to insert all the information in from the actual request that you've sent in. You're counting the items in the dictionary. You're putting the items, well, in this case, you're logging it. Then you're setting a variable, and then you're looping things. So loops are all brand new. Here's the loops, looping end times and looping with condition. I used the looping end times in this case, and then I used the variable count, which is right here, and looped that many times to go ahead. What this is doing, just in case you're wondering about the big picture here, is taking information from a blog and putting it into list entries, okay? So, into a list as entries. Here we go, let me show you. So blog entries, here's the end result. It actually fetches the blog information, puts it directly as a title and the URL for it. Of course, the URL, maybe it would have been better if I actually just made this a link title. But regardless, in this case, it's two different fields, title and URL coming in from the other place. I just noticed something over here. Somebody had asked this question at the beginning regarding InfoPath. And I do want to talk about this a little bit at the end as well, but maybe I'll stop for Mark first. InfoPath's future, just talking about forms in general. I'm sure Mark has ideas, and I have thoughts of my own as well. I don't think there's any, I mean, of course, the end goal or the announcement for InfoPath's future has already been made, so that's crystal clear. But what people do now is something that's up for debate still. But anyway, that was the SharePoint Designer workflows. You can dig into it further and further if you wanted to, but I'll go back and maybe talk to Mark. Mark, do you want to say anything about InfoPath?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just make a couple points though about your workflow demos, which are great. Is that you're coding without code.
Coding without code.
I mean, there's no better example of that, right? You don't have to be a code developer. You don't have to know C. You don't have to know JavaScript. And that's a great example of no-code solution. And then the second thing is that you can do some pretty advanced stuff with no-code solution. And I just want to mention a book by Ira Fuchs, and it's in my curated website. And he shows how to do a whole portal that accesses an HR database uses site templates, uses VCS, and there's not a single line of code in that book. And it's a really, really advanced solution that an enterprise with thousands of people could use. Okay, so they can be simple or they can be pretty advanced. And then the third thing about InfoPath is, yeah, I was warning that announcement too. So the bad news is that InfoPath has been deprecated. Okay. However, the good news is that the stay of execution is for 10 years. Okay. And so what that means is you can still do development with InfoPath. You can still maintain solutions that you've already created with InfoPath. 10 years is a long time in the high-tech industry. The second point to make is watch for alternatives to InfoPath very quickly. That's the best that I can say right now. I don't want to release anything ahead of time, but that's something we put a lot of thought into. And there'll be announcements of this on the SharePoint conference. And if people are going to go to the conference, then absolutely find people to talk to about that. And then the third thing I want to do is give a shout out to the Qdabra website, because they've been intimately involved with Microsoft on this announcement, and they have some alternative solutions that you might look at. And they're probably the #1 site for InfoPath forms out there today.
You know, let's do a quick, yeah, thanks.
I hope that answers the questions for the participants.
Yeah, and if you guys have more questions, go ahead and put in the Q&A panel. We're about to take questions anyway. But you know, before that, let me just show this announcement that Mark was talking about, that I was talking about earlier as well. Microsoft went out and finally said it crystal clear, that InfoPath future, there will not be a future InfoPath product. But just like Mark was saying, it will be supported until 2023. Here we go. It's part of the life cycle support policy, and that is a long time for electronic, stuff that we create these days. In any case, it is true, Qdabra and others like it, Qdabra being one of the major ones, have other solutions that you guys can go to for InfoPath. The current InfoPath forms can be converted into many other kind of InfoPath type of forms as well, that I believe Qdabra has a solution for that. Both Mark and I have been very fond of InfoPath, if I should say so myself. And Mark, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think we've discussed this before.
Yep.
We both like it.
We think alike.
Yeah, but of course, this is the reality. That's what's happening over here. As Mark mentioned, that if you guys are going to SBC, by the way, this would be actually a good time to also see who is going to SBC. If you guys can raise your hand if you are going to SBC, this is a good time to take a quick informal poll. A bunch of people, actually. Okay, so I counted about 15 maybe of the people who are here. We have hundreds of people on the webinar today, by the way, so that's great. So yeah, if you're going to SBC, there will be announcements. There'll be new announcements regarding this form technology, InfoPath, and other stuff as well. So it'll be fun to see exactly what Microsoft is proposing as the future of it. All right, so that's enough about that. Just to touch up upon SharePoint Designer workflow that I was showing earlier, here is the video for the exact advanced workflow that I had mentioned before, pulling information from a blog, putting it into a list, and I put the link to this free video in the chat window as well. So if you look in chat, it should be there. All right. So let me go ahead and Mark, please do the same thing if you would like over here. I'll go into the questions and answer and see if there's things over here we can answer. And then there's more time. Well, I can do more demos as well. There's always more and more that I can do. But I want to see if we can answer the questions first. Question from Vanessa. So after 2023, we can no longer use InfoPath we developed previously, because most of them were deployed in our SharePoint site, Vanessa's asking. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but my understanding is that the official support from Microsoft expires in 2013 for 2023. The support for InfoPath 2013 and earlier versions. But of course, it's not like the forms will start blowing up or anything. They will still be there. It just won't be supported officially by Microsoft. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct. It's a similar situation to Windows XP.
Yeah.
Which came out in 2000 and is now finally being retired.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Somebody's asking about, can you post a site URL? This is Lionel who's asking, can you post the site URL of the big InfoPath site that you and Mark are talking about? The big.
Yeah, I just did that.
Okay.
I put it in the chat. I put it in the chat. It's QDABRA.
Oh, the Qdabra.
Yeah,
That's
I added it to the chat pane.
And another person was asking about a link to this site, which is the no-code composite solutions. Since I have it open, I'm going to go ahead and put that out there also for everybody.
Yeah. Steve, I already added it.
Oh, you did? Okay, so now it's there twice.
I put it in the chat window. So people, if you're looking for that, it's in the chat window, and then we'll tell you where to get the slides when we're done.
Actually, Mark, I think in the chat window it went to organizers only. So you might want to change that to entire audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark, just put that in there and change the scope of it so it goes to everybody.
Oh, good. Yep, I was just there.
Okay. Now let me go ahead and see if there are more questions over here. Ofer was asking, how do you spell Qdabra? See, so it's not Qdabra, it's Qdabra, and that's the link that Mark is putting in. Great. Where's the link for the Excel list for all the solutions shown by Mark? Thank you, Steve. That's the one that I just put out there, but Mark has already put out there as well. Okay. So a lot of questions about InfoPath. Everybody's asking about the same thing as to which site did you mention? What about InfoPath? Yeah, there's a lot of people using InfoPath, and we know that. Microsoft knows that as well. So it's good to hear from the community as well about, there's concern of course about what to do now. Okay. What was the book that was mentioned? That's Khalif who's asking that question. Do you have a link to that, Mark? The book by Ira Fuchs?
I just added it to the chat window.
Okay. I believe that's also going to the organizers only, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and copy that and put it to the entire audience.
Yeah, what I sent was a link to a page with a sample chapter. It's a free download, and then there's a link to the book itself. It's a great book.
It is. I have that on my bookshelf as well. I agree. And Ira is a great guy. He's also extremely passionate about this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Okay, so Greg's asking, sorry if I missed this, but will SharePoint 2013 allow for Outlook integration, which allows for users to set up meetings on other associates' Outlook calendar? Well, the Outlook integration is still there, Greg, but the meeting sites are no longer turned on by default. They're still there, but the meeting site templates have been quote-unquote deprecated, or it will be deprecated officially in the next version, the way I understand it. Did you want to say anything about that, Mark?
Well, not my area of expertise. I can follow up on this a little bit. I'm wondering if site mailboxes might be an alternative solution to the for the participant. I didn't get his name, but he might look into that. I can follow up on the specific question with some of my neighbors next door.
That's the awesome thing, right? Mark is right there, right in the middle of the Microsoft campus. So yeah, if there's some specific questions you guys have, we can drop it to Mark, and he can ask a neighbor who's working on something else within the SharePoint space.
If he doesn't mind leaving his email, I'll and the question, I'll get back to him.
Okay, that's great.
Is there a way to do that here?
Yeah, Greg, you can just go ahead and we have everybody's email anyway when they sign up, but maybe you want to drop it into, here we go. Greg just did that, and it's in the questions window, Mark. Okay. Another question here. Wow, there's a lot of InfoPath questions. I can't get through the InfoPath to go to something else. I've been including InfoPath forms in the various no-code solutions I build for managers and power users. That's Sydney talking. In light of Microsoft's recent announcements about InfoPath, what issues are we likely to run into when we upgrade to 2013? Regarding 2013 InfoPath, Sydney, the InfoPath remains almost exactly the same. There's like one button as far as power users are concerned, one button that's been added, and that's the online pictures button, basically. Everything else remains the same. So if you do upgrade to 2013, it should upgrade just fine. It should have the same functionality. Nothing should be gone, so rest assured you'll be okay. Michael's question, what happens to this workflow? So we're talking about the workflow before that I did. If Gary is no longer an employee, task assignment will fail and emails will get sent. Is there a way to check for that condition or find the failed email transaction? That's actually a very good point. The debugging and the breakpoints and stuff like that functionality is sorely missing in the SharePoint Designer workflows. That's where you go into Visual Studio and do some of that stuff. And Visual Studio workflows in 2013 are also very codeless in nature, quote unquote codeless. There's still some code, but not much. So you could definitely do that there. And in addition to that, see, as a owner of the site was able to go in and see Gary's task, you could do the same thing as a site owner or site collection admin. You can go into that and see it if you wanted to. So that is there. Having a workflow that looks for all the different remaining tasks that have not been taken care of, that's another option. You can have that be run and spurt out notifications periodically. So there's multiple different ways of doing that, but that's a very good question. This came from Michael. Thank you, Michael. And Mark, jump in whenever you want to. By the way, I'm just going through all these questions over here. We only got a couple of minutes left. Copy paste of workflow is really awesome, but did we have an easy way of getting it exported? This is Gangadhar. This would be helpful in big team projects. Yes. So the good thing is that within SharePoint Designer, and this is not new functionality, it's been like that in 2010 as well, within SharePoint Designer, when you go into the workflows, there is a way that it says to save as template, okay? And when you click on the save as template, it actually saves it into a WSP format. You can go ahead and put it into a solutions gallery for a different site collection, and then you can instantiate that workflow from there. So that feature is definitely still there. Copy paste was just another poor man's way of quickly putting it somewhere else, Okay. Hermine is asking, sorry if I missed this, but when will this be available on demand? I came in late due to meetings. So we are going to make this webinar available. It's been recorded. And just like any other webinars, you'll find them. I'll show you exactly where. Hang on a second here. So under videos, here's free videos. When you go to free videos, there's webinar recordings right here. When you go to webinar recordings, there's actually a bunch of recordings from before that we have done, a bunch of webinars, lots of them actually, well, quite a lot. And on the top is going to be the most recent. So right above that is going to be the new webinar that's going to be put out there. You're more than welcome to watch the other ones as well. For example, this one we did for Conquering the Chaos of SharePoint End User Support. This was a few weeks back. All right. Mark, anything else that you wanted to put in? I want to respect everybody's time and end on time as well. So anything else that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I've been trying to pick out the ones that you haven't answered just yet and just answering them online.
Oh, wonderful.
But I'm either answering them in the question window or I guess you copied and pasted them.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the chat window. So anyway, I hope they got the information. So did you make the chat window publicly available?
Yes, the chat window is available, and whatever goes there to the entire audience gets to everybody. If you guys think we missed something in terms of getting some reference to you in terms of link, let us know and I'll put it out there. Somebody's asking about the composite handbook. So you know when you go to this page, the no-code solutions using SharePoint 2013 composites, here's the handbook right here. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm underlining here. SharePoint Composites Handbook version 2, this is where you're going to find the latest one.
And there's a link to it off the website, and I added that to the chat window.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, so that's about it. You know, it's always great to do these kind of webinars, to engage with the community. If you guys have other questions or thoughts or whatever else, feel free to contact us. You can respond back to the webinar email that you got, and that's one way you can get to us. Well, get to SharePoint Videos at least in this case, or you can click on Contact Us at SharePointVideos.com, and you can contact us through there as well about any of the questions or thoughts that you have. Mark, thank you very much for being here. This has been great. Really appreciate it.
Likewise. I really hope this was helpful for people. I suspect it was. And
yeah, that's the thing that, you know, all we can do is guess, but you folks, when you get out of this webinar, there's going to be a quick feedback thing that's going to pop up. If you could fill that out and let us know what we did right and what we can do better next time, that's going to be extremely helpful to us so we can keep doing these things. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, good luck.
Hope to see you next time. Go ahead and build your no-code solutions, right? All right.
Go ye forth in no code.
That's right. Go forth and no code. All right, guys. Take care.
Okay, signing out.